On this episode of City Focus, the city celebrates Arbor Day along with VSU and the Valdosta Tree Commission. Valdosta Police Chief Brian Childress joins me in studio to talk about the Valdosta Lowndes Regional Crime Lab. The Brigg Street Water Tower comes down after 60 years of use, and the Valdosta Fire Department holds a promotion ceremony for 4 of its top leadership. These stories and more on this edition of City Focus. Welcome to City Focus. I'm Michael Hawkinson, Media Coordinator for the City of Valdosta. Our first story of this episode has some of Valdosta's younger citizens experiencing a bit of courtroom drama firsthand. For more details, we go now to reporter Tevin Williams.
I'm here at Valdosta's Municipal Court, where second graders from the Valwood School have learned about the city's judicial system by participating in a mock trial.
So what you're all going to do is help me to decide whether or not these 2 people that have been arrested are guilty or not guilty.
The students served as the jury in a case involving the theft of a teacher's lunch from the faculty fridge. After hearing the testimonies of the teachers and reviewing the evidence, the young jurors deliberated and provided a verdict for the judge. Guilty! But the mock trial wasn't the only event the students participated in today. To celebrate Arbor Day, the students learned about how trees are good for the environment and how they help to beautify a community. Putting this knowledge into practice, the second graders planted a tree in front of the court, something that they can be proud of for years to come. For City Focus, I'm Tevin Williams with Metro 17.
While second graders observed Arbor Day by planting a tree, VSU, the City of Valdosta, and the Valdosta Tree Commission hosted the annual Arbor Day observance. During the ceremony, the Commission recognized Valdosta State University as a Tree Campus USA, a title it shares with only 12 other Georgia colleges and universities. President of VSU, Dr. William McKinney, remarked upon the importance of environmental conservation.
I'd just like to remind all of you that what we do with our natural resources says certainly something of the care that we take for those resources, but it says something more about us. It says something about us as a people, as a community, and it says something, I think, deeply profound about our humanity. These trees aren't just something beautiful to look at, which of course they are. And we have lots of people to thank for keeping them that way. But they also, of course, in our natural environment, provide a source of breathable oxygen. They provide habitat for birds, insects. They provide shade in the summertime, which of course we desperately need. They are as much a part of the fabric of our history as we are.
The City of Valdosta was given the honor of being designated as a Tree City USA community for the 29th consecutive year by the Georgia Forestry Commission. City Manager Larry Hansen was there to accept the title.
It certainly is a significant accomplishment to be here today, to be recognized as being a Tree City USA for 29 consecutive years. And just to give you a little perspective on that, there are 536 cities in Georgia, and there are only 8 of those cities that have been a Tree City USA for 29 years or more. So that's a significant accomplishment. In fact, there's only 138 tree communities in our state, so it does show the long-term commitment that this city has made to its investment in its trees and its natural resources.
Those attending the event were also treated to guest speaker Walter Reeves, host of Your Southern Garden on GPTV, gardening expert, and author of 50 Great Trees of Georgia and other books. The ceremony concluded with the planting of a bald cypress, a simple monument of this year's Arbor Day that will remain with the university for years to come. In March, the Neighborhood Development Division of the City of Valdosta will be working with the Fair Housing Committee to conduct 3 meetings to get community input about housing conditions and barriers to equal housing in Valdosta. These focus groups will be coordinated by VSU's Center for Applied Social Science Research. VSU professors working on this initiative had this to say about the focus groups.
Well, the Fair Housing Committee has tasked Valdosta State University with conducting 3 focus groups in early March to ask residents about certain conditions, housing conditions, affordable housing, what kind of issues there are in the neighborhood. And we plan on collecting that data, putting it together in a report and submitting it back to the Fair Housing Committee, which I think then will take it to the City Council for possible action either on programming or recommending some sort of program function that will result in improved conditions that neighbors perceive may not be up to par.
What we will do is, so we're conducting 3 focus groups, and we hope to have 10 to 15 members of the community or of those neighborhoods at each of the focus groups. And the focus groups are being held at different churches in those targeted neighborhoods. So we hope to get a very wide cross-section of members of the community and members of those neighborhoods. And what we'll be doing is, summarizing those results in a report. So, what do they see as the best part of living in their neighborhood? What do they see as the strengths and weaknesses of their neighborhoods? We'll be summarizing and describing those items. How many rent versus how many own their own home? How affordable do they see the housing in their neighborhood? If they see that the housing, or they view the housing as not being affordable, well, why is that? What are the reasons that housing is not affordable or is not accessible for many of them? How often do they communicate with the city? How often are they involved in their neighborhood association or neighborhood groups? Those are all items that we'll summarize in a report, and some of that is quantitative, right? So, the number that rent versus the number that own, the percentage who see housing as affordable, the percentage who see housing as unaffordable. What are the top 4 reasons for why housing is not affordable? So a lot of that we will be summarizing in tables and figures, and a report that we hope to present to the Fair Housing Committee. So we'll present that to our Fair Housing Committee, who we've been working with on organizing the focus groups, coming up with these questions. And then we also hope to present it to the mayor and council, and then of course, most significantly, sharing it with our city manager, so it can help to inform the decisions that the city needs to make as we move forward in terms of how can we improve these neighborhoods, how can we help to improve access to housing, what are the items that need to be repaired, how are residents evaluating the conditions of their neighborhood, how do they evaluate the city marshal and code enforcement. So these are all things that we'll summarize in a report, but then also summarize in presentations to the council and the Fair Housing Committee.
Valdosta residents looking to attend are required to pre-register through VSU by calling 229-293-6058. The 3 meetings will be held at 3 different times and locations. One meeting will be on Thursday, March 5th at the Morning Star Baptist Church. The other 2 meetings will take place on Saturday, March 7th. The first will be at River Street Church of Christ, and the second will be at Mount Calvary Baptist Church.
This is a pipeline to having your voice being heard. This is a pipeline to influencing public policy. It's an opportunity to help improve your neighborhood. Because, you know, we hear this from citizens across the country, right? We hear from people all across the nation that, well, you know, government doesn't listen to me, or government doesn't care what I have to say. And I guess what I would say in conclusion is that these focus groups are a lovely example that your government, your local government, does care. They want to hear from you. They want to be able to wisely invest federal funds that, say, come in from housing and urban development, or that come in from the state, or even local taxpayer dollars. How can we wisely invest these dollars to meet the needs of residents, to help improve our neighborhoods? And so these 3 focus groups being held in early March, are a wonderful opportunity for citizens to communicate with their government, to be heard, and then to help effectuate change. And for me as a political scientist, to me that's one of the most exciting things that we can help to facilitate at the university.
If you have any questions about these community housing focus groups, call the Neighborhood Development Division at 229-671-3617. There's still some time for anyone interested in the Government 101 Citizens Orientation to submit applications before the March 20th deadline. The program will begin on April 6 and meet 6 consecutive Mondays from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Participants will learn about the inner workings of Valdosta's city government through interactions with members of the various departments. Applications can be found at Valdosta City Hall, the Customer Service Center, or the Public Information Office, or online at valdostacity.com/publicinformation. Completed applications should be submitted to the Public Information Office, Valdosta City Hall Annex, 300 North Lee Street, Room 102. For additional information, contact Public Information Officer Samantha Matthews at 229-259-3548. And after this break, I'll be joined by Chief of Police Brian Childress. Stay tuned, you're watching City Focus.
In 1977, in Johannesburg, South Africa, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. By the age of 9, he was already outplaying him. The odds of this gentle lad winning the Junior World Golf Championships at the age of 14, 1 in 16 million. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the Open Championship once and the US Open Championship twice, 1 in 780 million. The odds of this professional golfer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
Welcome back to City Focus. Our guest today is Valdosta's own Chief of Police, Brian Childress. Now, thank you for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
Now, recently, the Valdosta Lowndes Regional Crime Laboratory underwent an accreditation inspection by the American Society of Crime Lab Directors. Now, can you give some details on how the organization does these assessments and what they're looking for?
I sure can, and let me just say this, this is a big moment for the city and for Lowndes County and for this region. The American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors is an accreditation board for crime labs, and they send assessors in every 3 years, sort of very similar to the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. And those assessors come in and they'll send an assessor for each specialty that you do at the crime lab. Like for our lab, we do ballistics, we do chemistry, like drug analysis and so on. We do crime scene, and we do fingerprints. And so in that case, they sent 4 assessors and a team leader. Now they showed up about a week ago. Before they even showed up, we had to make available to them, and we did it through the web and on a computer system. But we had to show them our policies, We had to show them proofs of compliance in each area. We also had to talk to them and show them proofs of compliance of how we safeguarded evidence and things of that nature. But they showed up. They were here basically from Tuesday through last Friday, and it was pretty intense. They interviewed every person that worked in the lab. We were all nervous, but I can tell you this is a historical moment for us because there's never been a local lab that's ever been ASCLD accredited.
I mean, that'll be big for Valdosta.
I think it'll be big for Valdosta and for Lowndes County, and I don't think a lot of folks know this, but as we speak right now, they're changing the signage on the building. And that lab is now a partnership between Valdosta Police Department, the City of Valdosta, Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the City of Lake Park Police Department, the City of Quitman Police Department, Eccles County Sheriff's Office, the City of Remerton Police Department, and our very own Valdosta State University. All those entities are contributing funding to the lab. I want to say this too, why have a lab here? I've had folks ask me, well, Brian, why are we doing a lab here? Why don't we use the state labs? State labs are overwhelmed. That's nothing against those folks. We set forth with two goals for our local lab here: to have a 21-day turnaround. That way we get evidence analysis to our prosecutors quickly, speeds up the judicial system. And the other part was we wanted it to be ASCLD accredited. And so that's what happened last week.
Okay, and now have you received the accreditation yet or gotten any information about the results?
Well, that we knew as an initial accreditation when they came in that they would make some changes. They made some very minor recommendations to us. I attended the exit interview with the crime lab staff last Friday, and what they told us was very positive. They told us that they want us to make a few changes, which we're working on those now. We have to submit those to them, and then, but the team leader, who was a gentleman out of San Bernardino, California, told me that he was extremely impressed, and so did all the other assessors, and that outside those minor changes they want us to make, they told us that they would give a positive recommendation to the ASCLD board. Now their work and that report has to be peer reviewed by other assessors who did not come here. It's a pretty intense process, but we should know something in 45 days. I can tell you, speaking with Sheriff Chris Prine and our partners at the lab, that I'm pretty confident in saying that I believe within 45 days we should receive a certificate for ASCLD accreditation.
And now what would accreditation actually mean for this regional crime lab?
Well, here's what it would mean. First of all, it's history. But the other part is you can't afford to make mistakes in evidence. And if you look at what's going on across the country, you'll see these laboratories that have problems, so they're accused of things. And there's things that those standards require. For example, one of the things that ASCLD requires is that if I'm, say, a drug chemist in the crime laboratory and we're ASCLD accredited, every year I have to be tested by an outside entity, and they check me and see if I know what I'm doing. And I don't think there's nothing more important than getting it right when we're talking about putting people in jail. And remember, the evidence that comes out of there is used in prosecutions to say if someone's committed a crime or not. And we are committed to accreditation. You know, the police department has CALIA, international accreditation, state certification, and we look at those processes the same way. What this would bring to us is confidence. What this would bring to us is liability reduction. And I think it'll bring additional convictions in our cases, and it also speeds up our process down here. Remember, if we put someone in jail and they're waiting to go to trial because we don't have the evidence back yet, that's money taxpayers have to pay to house those inmates at these different correctional institutes that we're paying money for. But imagine if we speed the process up, but we do it fast but correct. And that's what this is all about. And I am very proud of the citizens of Valdosta for supporting this project. I'm very proud of our city leadership, the county leadership, and our surrounding agencies, because in these days, sometimes we get accused of not working together. That lab sends a good message.
So not only is it good for just the Valdosta Police Department, it's good for the community as a whole.
It's absolutely good for the community. And although the laboratory is part of the police department, it's also part of Lowndes County and these other agencies that work with us too. So if we receive this accreditation award, and I believe we will, that's a triumph for everybody.
I'm looking forward to hearing from it. And once again, thank you for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad to always have you on.
Thanks a lot.
And if you'd like to find more information about the Valdosta Lowndes Regional Crime Lab, visit valdostacity.com. And make sure you stay here on Metro 17. City Focus will return right after this break.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Hey, my name's Katie and I'm in the 9th grade. I'm an A average student and I'm an athlete working towards a scholarship. And everybody tells me how much potential I have. But I just wish someone would tell me where my next meal is coming from. Katie, how'd I do?
Do you have to be so serious?
Well, I mean, I did like a crazy dance in a movie if you want me to like, you know, do a little, no.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
On February 25th, a contractor working for the City of Valdosta began the process of dismantling the water tower on South Briggs Street. The 10-legged, 500,000-gallon water storage tank was built in the 1950s but was retired in 2013 when the 2-million-gallon tower on Fry Street was put into service. For more information on this tower's removal, I spoke with Henry Hicks, Director of Valdosta's Utilities Department.
We're going to be demolishing the Briggs Street elevated water storage tank. It's a 500,000-gallon tank. It's been there since probably the 40s and 50s. It's old, seriously deteriorated. It takes a lot of money to keep these maintained. With the new Savannah Fry tank, the 2-million-gallon tank, we don't need this tank anymore. We've got more than enough capacity. We decided to take bids for demolition. We got a real good bid on it from Eisler Demolition, and they're going to be taking the tank down. Now that consists of, they'll start cutting up the top bowl section. They'll take it down in pieces, and then they gradually once they get all that bowl section off, they'll start cutting down sections of the legs, and then they'll take that off. When they'll get it on the ground, they'll cut it up into smaller pieces, put it onto a truck, and send it for recycling. We had all of our elevated storage tanks inspected in 2009, and to look and see what they would be needed to be to keep them in use. We knew that we were going to take down the old Savannah Fry tank, very similar tank, because we were putting a brand new elevated, larger storage tank. The Savannah and the Briggs Street tank were the next oldest tanks. They were not in real bad shape, but they were going to be, to really fully redo a tank cost you about $500,000. So, you know, that becomes an expense over time. And when they get older, it's more and more work. So when we took down the old Savannah tank and built a new one, then we had to make a decision. Do we want to keep on putting maintenance, $500,000 every 5 to 6 years into that tank, or just take it down? Because we really didn't need the capacity. And we said, you know, let's take it down. Let's get some bids, see what it's going to cost us. And like I say, we got a good price on it. And the price was about the same thing we paid to take down the Mathis tank back in 2009, I think it was. So that we were impressed that we were still getting the same type of price for a job that was 6 years old. So, it's had a good useful life. It's at the end of a useful life. Like I say, they become very, very expensive to maintain over time.
The entire dismantling process complied with federal, state, OSHA, and EPA regulations. For additional information, contact Valdosta's Utilities Department at 229-259-3592. The city would like to remind citizens that daylight savings time is going into effect on March 8th. It is also the perfect time to replace batteries in the smoke detectors throughout your home. Changing batteries twice a year allows you to check and make sure alarms are working as intended and placed correctly. If your alarms are wall-mounted, they should be placed 4 to 12 inches from the ceiling. If your alarm's attached to your ceiling, they should be 4 inches from the nearest wall. Make sure that alarms are away from draft areas like windows and vents. There should be an alarm in all rooms where someone sleeps, hallways that lead to those rooms, and one on each level of your home. If you're unsure about proper smoke alarm placement, call the Valdosta Fire Department at 229-333-1835. And remember, almost every day a smoke alarm saves someone's life. The Mayor and City Council held their public meetings on the first and third Thursdays in February, where they discussed a variety of topics that affect all citizens of Valdosta. For a summary of February's council activities, we go again to Tevin Williams.
The Valdosta City Council approved several items of business at their February 19th council meeting. Among other discussion, the council approved an amendment to the Community Development Block Grant 2013 Annual Action Plan. The amendment provides for a portion of the CDBG budget to be used for infrastructure repairs, which will specifically be used to repay parts of Church, Slater, Mary, Smith, and Cypress Streets, all of which are located in the city's designated revitalization area. The council also planned to hear an appeal from a citizen concerning alterations to his home located in one of the city's historic districts. Though the appeal tabled until the next meeting, it serves as a reminder of the approval process that citizens must go through prior to making improvements to their city properties for the protection of their property and the property in the surrounding neighborhood. The mayor and council invite citizens to attend city council meetings, as good government depends on the involvement of citizens. Meetings are held at Valdosta City Hall on the first and third Thursday of each month, following the first Sunday of the month, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Agendas and minutes for all meetings are posted at www.valdostacity.com.
Mayor John Gale and Chief of Police Brian Childress honored not 1 but 2 police officers as February's Employees of the Month. VPD patrol officers Donald Richmond and Eric Wagner earned the award after saving a citizen's life when responding to a call. When they arrived on the scene, they found a citizen with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. After Officer Wagner identified the injury as a sucking chest wound, Officer Richmond, utilizing his experience as a military veteran, applied a quick clot gauze and chest seal to the wound, stabilizing the injured person until paramedics arrived. Officers Richmond and Wagner began their careers with the VPD in January 2013 and September 2011, respectively. As the newest Employees of the Month, their names now appear on a plaque displayed inside of City Hall. The City of Valdosta, and we here at City Focus, applaud the quick thinking and teamwork of Officers Richmond and Wagner. Stick around, because City Focus will return right after this short break here on Metro 17.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who do something, the people who take action, are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Welcome back to City Focus. Early in February, the Valdosta Fire Department held a ceremony to celebrate the promotions of 4 of its members. Brian Botwell, Jason Rowan, and Ronald Screen were elevated to the rank of battalion chiefs, and James Clinkscales was promoted to the rank of captain. Valdosta Fire Chief Freddie Broom led the proceedings and gave words of advice to the newly appointed chiefs and fire marshal.
There are 3 things that you need to think about to be successful in your current positions. And you need to put them in this order. Faith. Having that faith, that hope, that's going to keep your inner spirit balanced. You wonder why I can function off 2 or 3 hours a day? It's because of having that spiritual that's keeping me balanced. Family. Family is going to be the key for you being successful. They're our backbones. They're our strengths. They're the ones that give us that motivation and give us that support to make us continue to go on. They're the ones that inspire that video that I show you all the time, how bad you want it. It's the family that's going to keep encouraging us to get to that point. Then finally, fire department. Keep it in that order. Faith, family, and then fire department. And you'll be successful in the roles, and we'll continue to grow and be successful as a department.
The men who were promoted also spoke, expressing gratitude to their families, their fellow firefighters, and the city of Valdosta.
Valdosta is a great city. I've enjoyed every moment I've been here. I enjoy everything that I've done, the people I've met. I have not met any person that was, everybody was kind, and I like to thank everybody for the citizens of Valdosta.
I, like many of you out there wearing the badges, is excited about the vision that we have as an organization, and just humbled and excited at the opportunity that City Council, City Manager, Mayor, and Fire Chief has given me to be part of the leadership and part of that vision that we have, and we continue to progress. Thank you.
While the 4 who were promoted at the event have years of experience behind them, it's not the only thing they can contribute as team members of Valdosta's fire department.
So they all have different areas, their strengths, and then we're going to utilize those strengths and we're going to improve to make us a better department. But the experience is great, but they just wasn't promoted on experience. They had to go through an assessment process, and it was a competitive position, and at the end we end up selecting the candidates that we felt not just had the most qualified, but was the best fit for a department that was going to continue to help us build on our department as we continue our mission of being a department without limits. Like I said, we have a lot of work in front of us, and just to remember what I said earlier about the 3 F's. You got to make sure you have your faith, your family, your friends in that order, and that's what will make us successful as a department. But we're in this together.
Like any organization that utilizes technology and other equipment to get work done, when the city of Valdosta replaces equipment, old equipment must be disposed of properly. Federal and state law says the city must dispose of surplus items through public auction or transferring the item to another government entity. However, Valdosta has found a way to recover some of the money of its outdated equipment. Using govdeals.com, Valdosta has been able to dispose of some of the outdated equipment while still saving the city money. The website allows government entities to sell their surplus items to bidders across the 48 continental United States, allowing easier connectivity to those interested in purchasing these used items. The man behind this initiative here in Valdosta is the city's purchasing agent, Greg Brown.
Traditionally, governments would call in auction companies to come on site, catalog all your items that were no longer any value, such as cars, old office equipment, computers, scrap metal, anything that we no longer had a use for. They would come on site, catalog all that, and we would sell it to a walk-up auction. The bidders would just walk up and we would sell. With GovDeals, everything's done online. We go out, we take pictures, post those pictures online. We have an audience of over 50,000 people. GovDeals is in, I think, 48 states and a couple of countries now. They buy, they get their own shipping set up, or they come pick it up themselves. And so in essence, it's increased our bidder base from 30 to 40 people to over 50,000 people. It's brought a lot of money back into the city with not a lot of effort. Instead of going and spending 2 or 3 days on site, you know, pulling everything out, the auctioneer putting everything in lots, and then 30 people show up to bid. So GovDeals is free. The bidders can they have to register, but it is a free website. They can see stuff from other entities as well that do the same thing, and it's at govdeals.com.
If you'd like to browse the surplus equipment that state and local governments are selling, visit govdeals.com. For more information on how Valdosta uses this site, call 229-259-3525. For those looking to get an early start to spring with some celebration and family fun, the Azalea Festival is quickly approaching. This year's festivities will take place on the weekend of March 14th and 15th at Drexel Park. The two-day event will feature over 150 arts and crafts vendors, a 5K race, and a variety of shows including returning favorites like the Disconnected Canine Frisbee Show and the live tiger display. For more information on this year's Azalea Festival, visit azaleafestival.com or call 229-269-9381. A recent point of contention between Georgia's state government and local governments is House Bill 170, also known as the Transportation Funding Act of 2015. Previous versions of the bill may have proved detrimental to local governments, but a revision may alleviate tension between the state and local government. For more details, I spoke with the city manager of Valdosta, Larry Hansen.
Well, the initial bill was going to remove the sales tax on all gasoline, petroleum-based products and replace that with a excise tax, a 6 cents excise tax that would be a local tax, but it required it to be voted in. And initially it was a 3 cent tax in cities and a 3 cent tax that counties, but they would have to vote it in, and then they could have a referendum to even have an additional 3 cent. That was then later replaced with just a 6 cent local excise tax that counties would have, and then it would be dispersed based on a formula that the Georgia Department of Transportation has. That was not favorable to cities, and basically the reason is it did not treat everyone fair, and what cities' interest had been in is making sure that cities and counties and school systems are made whole, that there are no winners and no losers, that one does not gain an advantage at the expense of another. So we continued to work with the bill now, where the most recent revisions of the bill will allow the 1 penny local option sales tax to be increased by the statute from 1 penny to 1.25 cent. And that would make the local governments whole for that loss of sales tax on the petroleum-based products. And the special purpose local option sales tax and the e-SPLOS, the educational SPLOS, would now be left alone. So in that case, really cities, counties, and school systems are made whole. And that's been our goal, not just about cities, but about the community and about all governments, and making sure we're made whole and not affected. We support the state's efforts to have more transportation funding to meet our needs. With the widening of the Savannah Port, some of that could be a deepening, I should say, of the Savannah Port. That could be helpful even to our area, because there's going to be a lot of cargo that's going to need to be moved and roads widened to accommodate that, and so on and so forth. We have needs right here in this community, bridges that are very aging, and while infrastructure might often look good from a visual observation or riding over a bridge, we often don't see that that bridge could be functionally obsolescent or have some structural deficiencies that aren't readily apparent to the eye, but everything has an age and a life expectancy. So here in this community and every community, we need partnerships with our state and with our federal government, because these things are tremendous cost, and it would be impossible to do it alone. So we're continuing to work with the legislature and try and be a partner, and just make sure in the attempts to do something good for all of the state that there's just no harm to local governments, and that's our goal. The most recent revision basically removes the 4 cent state sales tax on the purchase of petroleum-based products, and it replaces it with a new 29.2 cent excise tax. So it's just really a different mechanism, and there are reasons why the state prefers the excise tax. That excise tax will be indexed to inflation, so that as the prices change and inflation changes, it would grow over time. And it gives the state a more stable predictable source of revenue over time, and will generate some additional dollars as well. And then, so in Georgia, most communities have a 7 cent sales tax, 4 going to the state. So that would go away. The 3 local percent sales tax would now remain, with the lost actually going to 1.25%, and the SPLOST 1% and the e-SPLOST 1%. And so again, that helps make us whole locally, and that was really our only concern. And there are some that are talking about the broad use of the word transportation in the bill for things like aviation and seaports, and actually our federal government and our state government, and even transit as well, they already fund those uses. It's just that this really consolidates a lot of that into a comprehensive bill. So the state already funds seaports. They already fund aviation-related projects, like the Department of Transportation will participate in the extension or resurfacing of a runway at an airport. And they already fund transit systems around the state as a partner with matching federal funds and local funds. So it's not really broadening the uses, it's consolidating those uses into one comprehensive bill. Well, even the author of the bill, who is Representative Jay Roberts of Ocilla, and he's chairman of the House Transportation Committee, he has acknowledged that it's a work in progress, and it is a very robust bill, and so it's understandable that there will be changes to try and find something that meets the need but without causing harm to others. And he's been very good to work with. I have met with him, and he has listened, and changes have been made, and others have met, and so I think they've been very responsive. So the House Transportation Committee has now gone through several revised versions of the bill, and now the bill is in the House Rules Committee, where I believe it will be at least slightly revised more, and then it will go to the House floor, and it could be revised again and perhaps approved. And then at that point, the Senate would take that bill under consideration or have their own bill that could be different or modified or whatever the case may be, but then the process will have to go through the Senate. And in the event that the House bill ends up being different than a Senate bill, well then towards the latter part of the session they have a conference committee that's made up of members of each, and then they would come together and try and find a way to compromise and have a bill that would then go back to both the House and the Senate for approval. So it's a work in progress, and it's no one can predict precisely with that many steps still left. And again, trying to find something that works for everyone is easier said than done, but clearly there's a good faith effort being made to do that.
If you're looking for more information regarding House Bill 170, visit legis.ga.gov, where you can find the full text of the Transportation Funding Act, as well as other proposed bills of the 2015 legislative session that will impact our city and state. That concludes this edition of City Focus. To watch this and previous episodes of the show, visit our website at valdostacity.com/metro17. Make sure you keep up to date on everything going on in the city by following us on Twitter at City of Valdosta and subscribing to our YouTube channel, Metro 17 Valdosta. And stay connected to Metro 17, your source for news and information, to watch more great programming. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to you joining us next time here on City Focus.